What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Dungeon Master Experience. In this video, we're diving into the fantastic Dungeon Master Experience articles by Chris Perkins. He's one of the lead designers of Dungeons & Dragons. We'll explore his invaluable insights and advice to enhance your skills as a Dungeon Master and create unforgettable D&D experiences for your players. Alright guys, this article is called She Eats Babies, and it's from April 14th, 2011. Monday night. The heroes are mid-Paragon tier and enjoying a love-hate relationship with a guild of tiefling thieves and cutthroats called the Horned Alliance. Over the course of several adventures, they've thwarted a major operation, killed several high-ranking members of the guild, and dealt the guild a severe financial blow. Now they find themselves in the cellar of the Dead Crow, a tavern in Io Kalioth that serves as a front for the Horned Alliance. Standing across the dining table from the guild's supreme leader, a grandmotherly tiefling named Tuin'Tarl Vedu. What better opportunity to bury the hatchet and let bygones be bygones? The heroes have other fish to fry, and so does the Horned Alliance. Enough blood has been shed, and neither side is eager to escalate the violence. More importantly, the heroes have information that Tuin'Tarl desires, and she has information useful to them. Both sides agree to an information exchange. However, before this exchange begins, a servant places a covered platter in front of Tuin'Tarl. She rubs her fork and knife together expectantly as the platter lid is removed, revealing a cooked dragonborn baby. So it sounds like these guys have been messing with this shady guild called the Horned Alliance for a while now. That caused them a bit of trouble. So they ended up meeting with the guild leader, Tuin'Tarl Vedu, at this super secret tavern kind of meeting place, trying to call a truce, swap important info, that kind of deal. Things go south real quick when Tuin'Tarl gets served a cooked dragonborn baby. And I'm sure the players are like, no way, we can't work with her now. Honestly, guys, though, this part of the story shows just how important it is to have unforgettable villains and like crazy plot twists. I mean, who would have thought that a granny-looking tiefling would be into something so messed up, right? Anyway, it definitely keeps things interesting. Very creative work by Chris Perkins. Let's continue on and see what he has to say beyond this. The Monday night group was horrified. To understand the point of this article, one must first understand the Horned Alliance. This tieflings-only club of miscreants and malefactors operates something like the Mafia. It wants to mind its own business, however criminal, and be left alone. That said, the tieflings in my campaign are a shattered race. Their empire was wiped out by the Dragonborn Empire, and in Dragovar society, most tieflings are regarded as third-class citizens. Over the course of several levels, the heroes crossed swords with a number of Horned Alliance tieflings. There was Suffer, the brutal tiefling thug who spoke with a Brooklyn accent. There was Zeta Archeosa, the aria singer and the wealthy dilettante. There was Zybon Krinvaz, who lived on a ship called the Hellstrike, and collect the flayed bones of his adversaries. And there was Prismius, Zybon's crafty tiefling lieutenant with the acid-scarred face. For the supreme leader of the Horned Alliance, I needed someone more memorable than all of these other tieflings combined. Someone with the smarts, the temperament, and the prescience to run a widespread organization, yet who also embodied the Horned Alliance's abject hatred toward the Dragovar Empire. Tuin'Tarl Vedu is old, wise, and not about to pick a fight with a bunch of people who slay monsters for a living. The Horned Alliance is her house. Its members are her children and grandchildren, metaphorically speaking, and she would be likable and admirable except for one thing. She eats babies. This wasn't some randomly assigned fetish. It makes perfect sense in the context of the campaign. One thing the heroes know is that the Horned Alliance detests the ruling Dragonborn Empire. So how do I embody this hatred in the guild's leader? The answer is perfect in its awesome evilness. Tuin'Tarl Vedu employs thieves to kidnap Dragonborn babies and then eats them. When the idea came to me, I was walking my dog in the woods. Reggie, my three-legged silky terrier, gave me a quizzical look when I shouted, "She eats babies!" And I immediately sent myself a text message so I wouldn't forget. Like I'd forget something that cool. The juxtaposition of the grandmotherly figure with the image of the cooked baby told the players everything they needed to know about Tuin'Tarl Vedu, and at this point, the negotiations were over. The looks on my players' faces said it all. There was no doing business with this woman. She had to die. As a dungeon master, I sometimes make the mistake of relying too much on dialogue to make my villains compelling, but players are quick to dismiss evil monologues, insults, and hissed invectives. They're just words, after all. What my players remember about Tuin'Tarl Vedu aren't the words that came out of her mouth, but the baby that went into it. Actions always speak louder than words. All right, so what we have here is the Horned Alliance, which is a tieflings-only club with criminal activities. And it's led by the cunning and wise grandmotherly Jorthal Vedu. And she actually like embodies the organization's hatred for the ruling Dragonborn Empire. And so to display her hatred, she actually kidnaps and eats Dragonborn babies. And that horrifies the heroes that meet her. The players' negotiations with her came to a very swift end, and they decided she's got to die. So I guess this part kind of shows that it's important to remember that actions speak louder than words when you're making your villains. And in this case, the shocking act of eating babies kind of instantly conveys how evil your villain is. So that definitely makes her quite an unforgettable character. Let's continue on to lessons learned. I'm not suggesting that you add infanticide to your campaign as a means to shock your players. What worked for one villain in my campaign won't necessarily translate to villains in your campaign. The Dragonborn baby stunt merely illustrates that the heroes need to see the villains do bad things in order to appreciate what they're up against. Simply knowing the bad guy is evil isn't thrilling enough. There's a throwaway line spoken in the film Quantum of Solace to remind us that heroes, in large part, are judged by the strength of their enemies. Quote unquote, they say you're judged by the strength of your enemies. Pretty on the nose there. Well, truth be told, everything I know about creating villains I learned from James Bond novels and films. And my villain's strength is determined by the extent that they're remembered long after they're gone. For you, it might be the villain that brands his captives, the villain who betrayed one of his own to save himself, or the villain who wears a cloak made of the stitched faces of his slain enemies. Nice. So a villain needs only one good gimmick to be even vaguely memorable, be it a deformity, a white cat with a diamond collar, a razor-rimmed hat, or something equally obvious. Villains are defined by their deeds and quirks. It only takes one deed or quirk to make a lasting impression. Next week, I'll present the winning entries from last week's Best Villains Ever contest, and then we'll leave villains alone for a while to talk about wonderful things that can happen to a campaign when a player leaves the group. That contest actually ended over 10 years ago. Until the next encounter. It looks like Chris is emphasizing that villains should be made memorable through their actions and not just by labeling them evil, and just a single memorable gimmick like a unique quirk or a heinous deed can make a villain unforgettable. So for example, if you have a red dragon, you can say the village was flooded. All the villagers were climbing to the roofs of their thatch houses. And then the dragon swooped by, you got to give him a name, say Lord Nagafin swooped by. And as he saw the villagers huddled, clustered together on the roofs of the houses, one by one, he roasted them in groups. Something like that, I think, will stick in the minds better than just he chased them through the street breathing fire. I think it's a little more specific and heinous, And Chris actually does in the article warn against using infanticide or heinous acts just for the shock value because it might not work at your table. So be careful with that. You got to know your group, obviously, as with anything. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching to the end. If you liked it, click like, all that good stuff. See ya.